Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Anne, for reading our passage from Revelation. It was Anne's birthday yesterday, so make sure and tell her happy birthday. It's me today. When Reverend Dr. Chania Lynn Bennett emailed me the other day that she wasn't able to make it, I thought, oh, shoot. What are we going to do? And then I was like, well, your title now includes director of worship, so what would a director of worship do? I said, all right, I'll do it myself. But also there's another reason why I am very happy to be speaking in front of you today, and you'll find out why. I also just want to thank our worship hosts, including Mark, who have been so wonderful, and Ken, who have been great throughout, and Michelle, who have been really leading us throughout Cam's absence. There's been a lot that has gone into, making this all go while he's been away, and we're very happy that he'll be back next week. So this passage from Revelation that Anne just read is very coded in odd language and imagery. But that's Revelation for you. That people often find it the hardest book of the Christian Bible to read and interpret because it's so ensconced in these crazy metaphors. And it's like, okay, what is the writer really trying to get at here? And I'm certainly no expert, but from what I understand, the book of Revelation was written for the early Christians in coded language and was sort of a warning not to assimilate into the Roman imperial culture, that there was something better or greater or maybe just different for them as followers of Jesus than whatever it was that Roman culture was offering. In the passage that we just heard, what I have read about it and what I think I understand about it is that essentially what it's getting at is what is at the core of the love of God. And what was revolutionary at that time, again, as I understand it, is that this God was more powerful than any human being, which could have been said for the Roman gods as well, but kind of in a different, more singular way for the God that we know and that they knew. And this God's love was and is everlasting and inclusive of all people and things that are here, regardless of who you are or what judgment may have been laid down on you by others. All people can share in the love of God. There is enough for everyone. That's the whole multitude thing that was going on there. And so this was the message that was being sent to the early Christians. And it's a message that resonates, I think, just as much today as it must have then. So as a modern church community, we are uniquely situated within the wider community to give out that message of love for all and be that place for people. And a part of how we have tried to get out the word about our church is through the engagement committee. That committee has been doing a lot of really good work, but one of the bigger picture things that we've talked about is sort of defining who we are as a church. In sort of one sentence, who can we say that we are as a community of people? And I have to say, I haven't talked to anyone in the committee. We've been on hiatus for the summer. But this passage from Revelation seems like a really great place to start if we can kind of get past all the encrypted language. Because what we do here at UMCRB to help those in need through the food pantry, through the money we give to various organizations across the world, by our welcoming attitude to those who are different and have questions about faith, and by our commitment to the UMC social principles, and much, much more. These can all be included in what this admittedly encrypted passage from Revelation is talking about. What we do here is a huge part of the inclusive, everlasting love imagery of God that was outlined for us. And all of those things that I just mentioned, those are a big part of why I love this church. When I came to interview here 10 years ago, I was somewhat reluctant. I had lived and worked in Kansas City for almost 3 years after graduating college and had been surrounded by family and friends there, and I still remember sitting on the couch in the lounge before my audition and thinking, what am I doing? I know that they want me, but I don't know anyone here. This job isn't full-time. What am I going to do for money? What am I going to do? Where am I going to live? And then a couple months later, after many long conversations with Ann Walrod of blessed memory, I decided to accept this job because something told me not to say no. Something told me I shouldn't say no. So I drove out here with my mom, and we were sitting on the beach in Asbury Park, where I live now. And even then, I was like, did I do the right thing? And she just smiled at me and said, well, you're here. You did it, so you're going to have to make the best of it. And that is very much how she that's very her, that's how she shows support and love. She's a realist, which I very much appreciate because I am a realist too. But then she shores you up. She gives you support. And she did that by saying, just think of yourself like Mary Tyler Moore. You're going to make it after all. And then she made the motion of throwing the hat up in the middle of the street. I'm glad that you all get that very dated reference. It was one of my favorite shows. And as it turned out, I did make it after all. And there have been many times when I've remembered that conversation with her on the beach and have thought, okay, I can do it. But a huge part of why I've always felt like I can do it is because of you all. Because you all exemplify this passage from Revelation, and you welcomed me and made me a beloved friend. And this place has always felt like home from the very start. And now, 10 years to the day, this is the day, August 10th, that I started working here. I stand here in front of you instead of behind you, giving this sermon amongst people who I know care deeply about me. And I share that care for you as well. And that is not something that everyone has in their life. But we as a community embody this welcoming openness that is rare and so precious and is truly the love of God. So let us continue to embody this bit of Revelation. Let us decode the very obtuse language that was used for the early Christians so that the Roman establishment wouldn't know what the heck they were talking about. And let us continue to spread this message loudly and proudly of the inclusive, everlasting love of God and the God that we love, so that everyone may know that this place, this church, is somewhere all people can call home. Amen.